Creamer Media's Polity, I'm Sashnee Moodley. Researcher and analyst Professor Raymond Suttner joins me to discuss the fall of the ANC. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you.
The language you use in your article is not one of political analysis, as much as that of morality, or some may say moralizing.
Yes, I think that people are afraid to use ethical bases in politics because they are afraid someone will say, "Who are you tomorrow to judge us?" and things like that. But I think one of the reasons for the loss of support which the ANC experienced in the local government elections has to do with the changed perception of the character of the organization and its relationship to its constituency. Now, some people will say, "No, man, you evading the real issue. They made a deal with capital, and really the ANC has been bought off them. They met with big business before 1994. They agreed not to do this and to do that. And as you can see, all these guys have become wealthy, and their friends have become wealthy. And this is just a pattern," they would say, "which you find in most post-colonial states, and it's the trend of the world." So what is the value of what you are saying? Because the real issue is the capitalist system, or monopoly capitalism, the loss of land, and all of these things which can only be addressed by a radical economic program. Now that might be valid, I'm not going to assess it, but what I wanted to bring out is that the ANC had a special relationship with its constituency. People grew up in families that were ANC, so to speak. Wilton Kwai, who got life imprisonment, when he was a schoolboy, his father posted him an ANC membership card. And that gives one a sense of the ANC having like a familial type of connection with people. During the campaign for the collection of demands for the Freedom Charter, the Congress of the People campaign, in Port Elizabeth, some people were asked to join the ANC, and they said, "But why must we join? We are ANC." And that gives one a sense of the cultural character of the ANC within people's lives. When people said prayers in many families in the rural areas, they would pray for the leaders in exile or on Robben Island. So it had this special place. And I think the concern that the ANC had for its young members when it went into exile and in MK was in some ways parental, and it had to be parental because some of these people were very young. When some kids had children, they had no mother figure there to advise them on child rearing and things like that. So the ANC, in a sense, became a familial figure. An illustration of this in a very literal sense is found in the work of Dr. Ariana Lesoni of the History Workshop at Wits, where she traces a group. I first did some research on them in Zeerust. They went out as young boys, and in a sense they completed their initiation by joining MK. They left as initiates, and by joining MK, in a sense, they did some of the manly things that were required for initiation. Anyway, these people got stuck in Tanzania for 20, 30 years. And at first, ANC wouldn't let them marry local people. I think they didn't want trouble with the local communities. Also, there may have been security factors, but eventually they gave them permission. Now, when you were in exile, you didn't get a salary and all of that, you got an allowance. And like here, lobolo had to be paid. And the ANC actually paid the lobolo for some of these people to get married. So it was literally standing in for the family in these relationships over there. Now, what has happened in recent times is that the ANC has taken actions that has ruptured that connection between itself and a community that loved the organization, loved the leaders, loved the organization, believed that the organization would take care of them, not meaning take care of in a corrupt sense, but look after their interests. That is why they were patient in the beginning when the ANC was slow to do certain things, because they had trust. In recent times, over in Kandla and a number of these issues, we've seen how that trust has been betrayed. Not only in Kandla, there have been situations where the basic needs of these people have not been met, where they could have been met, and instead the money has been diverted towards others. In Madibeng, for example, there was no water, but when the water came back on, instead of providing it to the people, they continued to provide it to private contractors about a year or two back. So I think what we are dealing with here is there is a sense that the ANC no longer cares, is indifferent to the needs of those whom it previously was perceived and actually did, in my view, serve as, in the best sense of the word, of public service.
Can the ANC recover this ground?
Well, you know, it's an electoral question, and it's also a question of whether they'll recover that trust and that connection that they used to have. Now, the DA doesn't aspire to have that connection. You know, the DA is just going there as a smooth machine. It's not asking people to love them. They're not embracing them as some sort of familial sense. There's no emotional bond between the DA and the people who voted for them in the metros that they won. I don't think they claim that. EFF, however, does have that sort of fervour around them. And the EFF, in some respects, has engendered a type of bond similar to that of the ANC. If you look at the launch that they had in Orlando Stadium, whatever it was up here, got the sense of fervour amongst the supporters of the EFF. Problem with the ANC is that the ANC is in disarray. The state that the ANC is controlling is in disarray as well. And in some key regions, the one key metro the ANC won is in eThekwini, and in KZN it has become a norm almost to have political assassinations. And what has changed is that it's not assassinations of opponents of the ANC primarily, but internal assassinations. And that relates to the ANC being an organization which is seen as a route to achieving wealth. Now, if you become that, even if you do provide wealth for some people, you can't provide for the overall membership. There are some who are benefiting, and there are others who resent being outside the loop, not getting a house when others jump the queue, things like that. You have in the Western Cape, for example, where the ANC is becoming, its support in the area is getting less and less, and it's in the group of gangsters. I mean, something like Fransman has these close links with gangsters. You had this chap Liffman, I think his name is, big gangster, come to the ANC anniversary about a year or two back in Cape Town in an ANC t-shirt. So that the difference between the ANC and the gangsters is not very clear there. So ANC recovery in the past could have been done through a very, very serious, sober-minded conference like that in Morogoro in 1969. the possibilities of that happening now with looting factions competing with one another doesn't seem to be there, but one cannot tell what will happen. One also can't tell what the state of the ANC is everywhere, because most reports are in the urban areas.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
That was Professor Raymond Suttner speaking to Creamer Media's Polity about the fall of the ANC.